Hi everyone, today I'm going to take a look at these Toyo Open Country mud terrain tires and tell you my thoughts about these tires. I've had this particular set has 28,000 and some change miles on it. And this is my second set. My last set I got 63,000 miles out of. So combined together, decent amount of miles, the better of 100,000. So let's take a closer look here. They are a mud terrain tire. You can see they've got a lot of siping there. Really nice, aggressive sidewall buttresses around the outer perimeter there. Very beefy looking tires. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses to these tires. Obviously there was enough pluses for me to buy a second set. The set you're looking at right here is a 35-inch tire. It says on the side 35 by 12.5 by 17. However, the actual dimensions are something like 34.8 by 13.2 or so. So they're a little wider than the 12.5 that you see on the side of the tire. So for pros, actually let me start with the cons. Cons, well, they're a little pricey. This set, if I'm remembering right, it was about $1,300 or $1,350. So other mud terrain tires you can get a set for about $1,000, but these are going to run you a little more. It's almost like buying 5 tires out of a different brand, but they make up for it in certain ways. So price is something that I was willing to overlook, and I'll tell you why when I get to the pros section when it comes to longevity. Next, and probably the biggest con of these tires, is their weight. These ones here, along with their rim and the balancing beads that I have in there, weigh 101 pounds per tire. That is a lot of unsprung weight. So on the front, especially here, it's probably more noticeable that you can see with a big beefy tire like this, and right there's the coil and the shock, that weight is not on top of the coil or shock. So that weight is below these springs, and it's a exponential effect for how much a few extra pounds on the tires. A few extra pounds, I would say these 35s are about 10 or 11 pounds a tire heavier than the 34-inch set that I had before these. 34s were actually a 285/75, and they measured something like 34.2 high and 11.6 wide. So they weren't quite as wide. That was the biggest change with these tires, was going to a bigger width. But we also added 11 pounds per tire. So that unsprung weight will be felt when you drive the truck. So it'll be felt in a few different ways. First is fuel economy. That unsprung weight's almost like having a trailer behind you. That's how it kind of shows up when you do your fuel economy. The 34s didn't really affect me this way, but the 35s, it really showed, because the 34s covered it up because it re-geared the truck in a very positive way. The reduction of RPMs at highway speeds that I normally drive was very helpful with the 34s. So it shrugged off that weight gain with some good re-gearing. Really helped the truck out. It almost made it like it has 342s or something in the rear axle when you have 373s with the 34s. And that helped me out. But with the 35s, The height difference, you know, it maybe brought the RPMs down a little bit, but at this point, not very helpful. It's almost like you're getting past that optimum RPM where you actually may start lugging the engine a little bit, and that actually is bad for fuel economy. But the weight is the real factor that made these 35s drop compared to the 34s down 1.5 miles per gallon. When I first put them on, I was actually down about 2 miles per gallon, but they have done rather well this summer on fuel economy, but the truck has been very, very much highway only. So they've haven't been that bad. What we're looking at on this particular truck, it's 03 Dodge Ram 2500 with the diesel engine. We're getting about 18 miles a gallon with these. If you have a gas truck, I would say the same truck with a Hemi in it, you'd be looking about 14 miles a gallon on the highway. That's my honest opinion of what you'd get with the 35 size. Now, some of the smaller sizes, I think you do a little bit better. Anyways, fuel economy is just one of the drawbacks of the unsprung weight. Then second drawback is they're just a pain to rotate. They're heavy, and the rims actually are 4 pounds of rim heavier than stock, so that's a big deal too. So that doesn't help me much, but they are a pain to rotate even compared to the 34s. The 34s with the tire and the stock rim, you know, is 14 or 15 pounds, be 15 pounds less than what we have here. So a little bit easier on you. But if you're willing to look past that rotation, I actually just rotated these yesterday, and it wasn't too bad for me yesterday. I just got lucky. You gotta really hoist them up and just get them on the lugs properly. So that's just something to keep in mind with big heavy tires. Probably more detrimental is the wear and tear on the front end. When you've got a very heavy tire bouncing up and down as you go down the road and you hit bumps, you know, you're working the shock there, you're working the ball joints and the tie rod ends, and they're all accumulating wear and tear, not to mention the wheel bearings. And on this truck, with the these rims are minus 12 offset, which is a little bit more minus than the stock. So you can see how it kind of sticks out past the fender there. Now the fender flare makes up for it. It's almost flush with the fender flare, but the stock tires, literally with my old setup, we were probably like 2 or 3 inches inward towards the center of the truck on these tires. That negative offset will pry on your wheel bearings. This truck has 2 relatively new wheel bearings, and the one that went out over on the passenger side here was, you know, was fine with the 34s and everything. It was shortly after the 35s went on that one actually went out on me. So that's something to keep in mind. Ball joints, tie rods, and your wheel bearings. And then other factors. Your braking distance is more. It's harder to slow this truck down when you got all this rotational momentum with these tires. Heavy tires, moving relatively fast. It's going to be harder to slow down. You're going to have to use your brake pedal a little bit more. I haven't noticed that it wears out brake pads faster, if at all. But yeah, it does have a little bit more of a effect on your braking. Finally, the transmission. It only makes sense that the transmission is going to be, you know, it's geared to it wants you to run the stock tires. That's how they designed it. But you can imagine there's a little bit more strain. Another thing, when you're in second and third gear, your RPMs are a lot higher just to get to the next gear. It's really noticeable because when I had my 34s, I could just go 1600 RPMs got me out of first gear, 1500 got me out of second and third. Right now, I go to 1800 to get out of first, 1700 at least to get out of second and third. So that was another change. But besides those things, Oh, and the noise. I mean, noise is neither pro nor con, but they are louder than all-terrains, and they get louder and louder as they wear out, so that's another thing to be aware of. You'll think they're really quiet when you first put these on. The 35s, also, a side note, 35s do ride slightly nicer than the 34s did. And I might have something to do with the width. Yeah, rolling resistance, that's part of the MPG equation as well. Aggressive tires will have more rolling resistance. But with these, rolling resistance hasn't hurt me as much as weight has. I guarantee you weight is responsible for about 90% of my MPG loss. And finally, look at this design. I love this design, but if you look at it, it's kind of diagonal shaped, and the way these lugs here will grip, it's asking to pull the truck to the right a bit, and so you may notice some rightward pull on these tires, and they do pull a little bit to the right. That's not an alignment issue with me. That's the the crown of the road, makes it worse. But if you try and ride down the middle of the road, they will slightly pull to the right. It's more noticeable at high speeds. So that'll probably do it for the cons. So after all that, I decided to stick with these tires, and there's a few good reasons for that. Firstly, these sidewalls are very, very strong. Tremendous strength on the sidewalls. These are E-rated tires. You can tow a lot of weight with these tires on here. Each tire size varies on how much you can tow, but their payload is pretty good. And the sidewalls are nice, very tough, which is very good for safety. And also, when I first put these tires on, I had the death wobble, and I put the tires on and it went away. Now since then, I've rebuilt the whole front end and the whole 9 yards with that, so chances are that probably was one of the reasons why if I went back to regular old tires, I probably wouldn't have death wobble. But these tires, and my case isn't the only one, they've been responsible for really helping out people's death wobble problems. It's happened a few times. It's not a guaranteed fix, but I'd say your odds are about as good as switching to T-style steering. T-style steering doesn't, this is still Y-style on this truck, by the way. T-style isn't a guaranteed fix, but good tires with good sidewall goes a long way to help you with your death wobble issues. Secondly, traction. Love the traction on this. Off-road traction is good. This truck is not a very good off-roader. Very heavy on the front end here. That Cummins engine is very, very heavy. And it just wants to sink and stuff, but these tires give it good traction. I mean, if there's a hard surface underneath, this truck does very well. It's four-wheel drive. But good traction for mud. Good traction on snow as well. I've had it in the snow. I climbed up a mountain pass, gravel road, 10 miles, 10% grade in areas. Snowfall on the road, 2 to 12 inches. I started at 2. You went higher and higher in elevation. You got up to a foot of snow on the road. It was literally up to my axles, up to the pumpkin, rubbing against the pumpkin. That's how deep is snow. And I was swimming through it with these tires. Did a really good job. Actually, that was with the old 34s when they had less tread than this. Keep in mind, this is a 29,000 miles worth of wear, and they look pretty good. There's also sand. Sand, they're okay. They're okay in sand. This truck is not a good sand truck because sand does not have hard surfaces underneath it usually. If you got loose sand, this is a really, really bad choice of vehicle. But sand, these tires do a good job trying to grip the sand, but they're better at snow and mud than the sand. That's my assessment of that. Rain, they're okay in the rain. They're not bad, not the best, they're not the worst. The sipes help it out, but it's not the best rain tire. You know, I wouldn't get them if rain is your priority. But they're not bad either. So, tread life. I was just saying about tread life. 29,000 miles on these. They look good. 63,000 miles on my old set of tires. That's really good. These mud tires on a truck like this, they have about a 40,000 mile lifespan. If you're lucky, in many cases, in certain tires, you know, your mud grapplers, you know, you're lucky to get 35,000 out of those. You go to trail grapplers and you get a little more, maybe 45. But these, you know, to be able to cross 60,000 is pretty good. And the way these are wearing right now, maybe I'll fight for 70 on these. I'm not going to let them get as low as the last ones. But one of the keys to success for tire longevity is to get your front end nice and tight. Ball joints and wheel bearings. If you have a bad wheel bearing, you'll get wear on this side, uneven, it'll wear down. If you have bad ball joints, you can get a chop or something like that. Bad shocks will give you a chop. So you got to watch out for those things as well. And since mine's nice and tight steering, all 4 shocks have been replaced and are brand new, and that's one of the keys to success, that these tires look this good after 29,000 miles. So longevity, very good. In fact, you know, they're worth that extra money you pay because of the longevity, and it's less of a headache having to worry about tires that are wearing out fast. Now, if you're towing a lot, you may notice these rear ones will wear as fast as the front ones do. But that's going to happen on pretty much any tire. So, other positive things to say, they look good. One of my favorite looking tires. You know, I was looking at a lot of different tires. The other runner-up was the Nitto Trail Grapplers. I like the look of those too. And there's a few others out there that I really like. One of my favorite things was the sidewall buttresses things that are all around the outside. They look great. And then the tread pattern is really nice. It's uniform, and it's just, it looks good, but it also looks, you know, it doesn't look all irregular. Like, I wanted to avoid the irregular looking blocks. These are all nice and symmetrical. And then, you know, durability-wise, that's another thing I just can't do without, is the durability. They're great. You know, these tires give me a lot of confidence. Like, I don't think I'll ever get a flat tire with these tires. You know, my old set actually had a screw go straight through the tire. Never lost any air. You know, I actually ran it for its last, like, 4,000 or 5,000 miles with that screw. I just washed it, you know, in case I was going to lose some air. But never did lose any. And they're just tough. Like, I've never seen anyone get a flat tire with these. And they're very, that sidewall strength, you know, I have a lot of confidence in them. So, that'll do it for my review of these tires. If you have any questions, let me know. I think I covered a lot of points with that. And I don't think anyone has like a review like this out there. And these are such a popular tire. Really popular tire on the 3/4 ton trucks because of their longevity. Well, y'all take care. Have a good day.